Hi, Charlie. This is David. We met on the EasyJet yesterday. And for anybody else that we share this forwards with, my business partners or Charlie's, we met on this EasyJet plane after a day of traveling. Let me tell you, I was exhausted. And we had this incredible conversation about regeneration because Charlie's considering how that could be done with his farm. And I hadn't really thought about doing that because I'm interested in getting a use case with virtual content. However, I'm looking for causes where people say, oh, that's a good idea. I want to raise money for this. And so it's a potential use case is to generate revenue, like crowdfund for the regeneration of land. I've thought about it, Charlie. And when you said it's going to take 10 years to regenerate the land, that's, crowdfunding for a project of 10 years long where you're going to get a return is a bit long. So that's why we went into the ideas that I was suggesting is we cannot reduce the amount of time of how soil it takes to regenerate. However, we can come up with some kind of developmental steps of, for example, as you were mentioning, allotments. And I've got experience with that because I lived in a Quaker community and people literally turned up to help in the allotment and they actually gave money. Okay, so it's like an active holiday. So there are potentials like that. However, the first step, so I've written that down, okay, but the first step is really, can we generate revenue? And so that's what the scale model is. And so this video is embedded in a page and there's some writing with it. And what I hope we're going to do is we're going to have the next step, which is to talk about it and to finalize or stabilize what specifically can we offer or you can offer. What are the returns that people are going to get by investing in regenerating your land? Okay. And we're going to do it in this interesting way. We're generating the revenue in this interesting way using scale. And so the economic for it is part of the plan. And so we do want to see what happens afterwards. It's not, let's just regenerate the land, which is going to take a while. Oh, we're going to get people turning up and doing allotments. Okay. Do we want investors? Do we want like significant investors? Maybe. Do we want to find people that want to visit? Maybe. Do we want to have experts of regenerative processes? I know a couple. Or, for example, biodynamic. I know a couple with them. Or, for example, permaculture. And so could we get like a brain team or, in fact, hands-on, green thumb kind of people also involved? Okay. And so is that all contained within the first offer? And so this video is, I'm going to take a little bit longer and, Charlie, we talked about it. So, you can just switch off at some point. But for other people, they might go, okay, so what's this other stuff? And this is the best way that I can think of is documentation. So we don't have to spend a lot of time documenting and meetings and so on and so forth. So this is good enough to record the conversation and the plan right from the beginning. I met Charlie yesterday. So people can see, so for example, they'll see the video of maybe the crowdfunding ask, and then they can see the other video, for example, of Charlie maybe saying what he's planning to do and what he's sharing with his friends, his colleagues and business partners. And at the bottom of that will be me, okay? Here, this video. And it's basically the journey from where it started. So the documentation of this is actually quite important because it has to be transparent. Anyway, so the crowdfunding is, basically people share it forwards. Okay, so they're going to look at a video and it's got to be enticing enough and exciting enough that they go, yeah, this sounds like a good thing. And it appeals to their interests. And that's why somebody shares it forwards. It's because it's part of a network of regeneration. And they share it forwards, and in the act of sharing it forwards, they also put money in. Okay, so there's no separation of recommendation and then investing or whatever. It's like the act of sharing is the act of investment. okay, especially if it's locked, one of the features in Scale. Which means that when people share it forwards with £1 or £10 or £100 or £1,000 or £10,000, imagine sharing it forwards with £10,000. Wow, that's really trust. Okay, but it all goes towards the regeneration program, okay, and extra things. So, for example, the ability to potentially invite people to work there for free by providing, for example, housing, maybe for a week, month, even a year. Okay, so I know people, for example, that are looking for land to basically invest their time and their expertise and to, properly, seriously, they're deep people. And I'm sure there's others that would be willing to devote their time and work on it, not for free because they're investing their time, but we need to have money to be able to support them during that time, with food and so on and so forth. Now that's more to do with the allotment idea. Okay, that's not really the regeneration of the land. It's partly because obviously by doing allotment, you're going to do something different with the actual soil. However, that progress is probably going to be even slower, okay, to get to the regenerative levels that you're talking about. So we have to make a package that is, firm about what the plan is and who we're looking for. So people share it forwards to go, oh, wait a minute, I know somebody that's interested in regeneration. Here's a tenner, here's £100. And that's an interesting invite, okay, to receive something. Oh, have a look at this. They're doing something interesting in Jersey, and here's £10. Okay, I'll have a look at that. I'm already interested in regeneration, so wow, I've got £10 too. Okay, I'll share it forwards. And that's the implicit contract when you receive this is, okay, this is valuable. So the £10 is not really for you. It's indicating the value of the project, or £100. So I've given this, for example, to Charlie with £100. Now, he's not going to invest £100 of his own to share it with, I don't know, his wife or his business partner, but he might. Okay, he could just use my £100, or he can dilute it £10 to various people. Okay, but he could potentially just invite somebody at £100. And that's important because we're starting to generate revenue for this idea. So if Charlie says, okay, I'm going to share this forwards with 2 people, he shares it forwards with the £100 I've given him, and then £100 of his own to this other person. So now there's £200. We've doubled it. They're £200. And if they share it forwards going, oh, this is interesting. Now, nobody's wanting really to share this thing. Okay, it's not going to be viral. But the next video, or the video after that, could be viral, okay? Because it's properly done. And that's basically what we have to do. We have to meet together, find out what's the package, and how much is it going to cost to pull together the video and create the campaign. And Charlie's got a friend that's into digital and everything else, so he knows the kind of cost to get a professional crowdfunding video. It's attractive, it's edited well, so on and so forth. Get a few professionals involved. And then we share it. And we share it through Scale, but they can also share it through other means. And however, we're going to try and make use of Scale because Scale's economic function is a positive system. It's a networking mechanism. And I think it's more aligned with regenerative. And if we get proof of use case, it's useful for Scale, but it's also useful for other regenerative projects, that we start doing things simultaneously. We start to talk about this. So instead of waiting 10 years before we get proof, oh, look, the land is regenerated. Oh, okay, look, other people are going to start doing it. That's too long. Okay, so we need to start seeing that it's possible to generate revenue while this process is going on. It's possible to get people involved and interested in working together collaboratively with, for example, large numbers of people, because we're not paying people. We're not using the traditional economy, but we're growing vegetables, growing food, and then we're giving those forward. Okay, so so we have to talk a little bit about what the next potentials are and include that in the first video. Okay, and then if we get actually enough money, then we go, okay, so how do we actually do this properly? And then we kind of flesh out for the next step. For example, to invite people to collaborate and to actually work, to literally labor in allotments. And we could do that potentially from summer. So my kind of scheme, think, plan, whatever, is 6 months, 3 months, 6 months to get the campaign. to get the crowdfunding campaign. I would say 3 months, summer, okay? And then after that, it could be, okay, well, let's see if we can get the allotment going. And if we get, basically it's called iterative social validation. It means that once we start getting proof that it works by generating revenue, proof that people want to collaborate and actually are willing to give their time, and we start seeing this money flow method work going forwards in time, there's no exchange, other people can start doing it simultaneously. Okay, so we're just like a year ahead or 6 months ahead. And other people can start doing it. Which means that if, for example, it takes 10 years in total for the land to be regenerated, it'll be 11 years before half a dozen others land will be regenerated in 12 years. It's hundreds. And so that means that we need to think about that kind of scaling process right from the get-go. Not let's just do this one project, oh, okay, then the next. It's like, think about that, go on to the next, but think about the simultaneous effect on other people. Okay? And we're all moving forwards at the speed that we can with the network that we've got and the people that are investing. It's all to do with how much money is flowing, how many people are collaborating and committing their time. And the third stage is basically how much of the chain of supply chain can be contained within using scale. Okay, now that, as I admitted when I was speaking to you, Chris, I haven't thought about it because it's the virtual thing. Okay, so basically first step, good. Second, should be good, inviting people to, crowdsourcing people, great. Third, wait a minute, okay, we're talking about changing how the money flows regarding how you deliver vegetables and fruit and so on and so forth. And that is a major game changer, okay? A year, 18 months, something like that. So, there is something about timing. So, that's basically what I wanted to say. Charlie already knows this stuff. The timing, the regeneration, 10 years, 20 years. Improving the social trust between people, because that's the thing that's an absolute nightmare out there because of money, because it closes the relationship. It's disastrous. We're really, people are talking about, and Chris had spotted it, Charlie had spotted this too, and I'd spotted it online somewhere, zero trust. Okay, we're entering into like a world of zero trust. They're actually advertising this as a good thing. Zero trust. i.e. it's secure, it's locked. Okay. Whereas what we need to do is have more trust. Okay, so we need to improve trust, to get it up to healthy levels. So I've written a couple of things. That's beside this video. It's only going to happen through iterative social validation. So it's not about whatever it is that somebody's got a brilliant plan. It's not that. It's, well, what's the next step? And then when anybody joins, what's the next step? And then they take part in something, and then there's social validation of their participation. And that's why they continue doing it. And that's why they're going to join the next thing. It's the next person and what they do and what they contribute. Okay, it might be a new idea, it might be a new direction, it might be a new part of the supply chain, it might be that they contribute money, it might be that they contribute, well, why? Where do they direct that money? And all of that's happening with the next person. And so we're being responsive to the next person. It's not the person who owns, it's the person in the back, somebody that's in at the beginning who started it. For example, me and Charlie in this case. It's not us, it's the next person, because we're trusting the next people with our money. We're saying, this is our vegetables and here's some money. This is our idea and here's some money. We'd like to maybe, potentially, I think collectively, we might want to buy a factory to build the tools that we need. So instead of paying for tools, we actually are fabricating them. It's within our supply chain. Okay, I'm going to say this. It's into 15 minutes. Charlie, probably, we spent an hour talking already, so we're going to meet again in order to finalize these details. But other people will be interested in considering supply chains are too linear. And the reason why they're supply chains is because of this money thing. And it's a point, and it's an exchange point. You get given something, like some carrots, and here's the money. And the person that then gets the carrots, cuts them up, sautés them with some olive oil, and then sells them to somebody in a restaurant. Here's the food. Ooh, tasty, here's the money. Thank you. Okay, and so we have all these different exchange points, and then that's all collapsed. And we get costs and pricing and all of these kinds of complications. But then we have this kind of like sequence of cost points, exchange points, and that's called the supply chain. Whereas actually, if you look at the world, it's actually lots of complicated, lots of interrelating supply chains. So the farmer is not just buying carrots from somebody, he's buying, he's renting the space maybe from somebody, getting drinks from some other company, da, 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 da. Okay, so there's lots of different supply chains interlinking. And that's basically a meshwork. And I think what Scale does is it enables a meshwork. It's non-linear. So it's actually almost like harder to think of a single linear sequence. It's better to think about it as being a meshwork. And the meshwork just kind of grows. And so it might happen, for example, okay, this is completely ludicrous, but I'm writing a book, and in my scale of time, I'm thinking we've got to get a major result in 20 years. Major, as in global scale. And so I'm saying in about 10 years, 13 years, we've got something like a valley or a city. Potentially an island. Okay, potentially Jersey. I don't think it's going to be Jersey because it's, well, it could potentially, but it's got a massive financial home. And so the resistance to this level of change might be quite strong. I don't know. It might actually be the forefront. It's difficult to say. But some island, okay, of a certain scale will be able to, or city, town, will be able to basically function without money and all within scale. And it's like a whole network, a whole meshwork it's like a one big company or one big family or one big polity. And all the money that's coming in is distributed in using scale methods, and some money's going out, but actually there's less money going out, buying stuff, okay? And so there's actually like an increased amount coming in, okay? So it's like a good company, okay? It's the equivalent of profit, but there's no profit, it's just kind of growing. And then because of that, it means that you can effectively give more stuff away with the money that you've effectively generated. I'm not going to go into detail with it, okay? So anyway, that's my kind of thinking, okay? So it's in this kind of direction. It might not be clear to you, and that's okay. I'm not trying to make this clear. Iterative social validation works because it's the next people, the new people that are coming in, and the new money that's coming in, and how that is used. And we need to get a social result as soon as possible, basically. And for the beginning, it's just a few people, and we get a result. For example, it's crowdfunding. But later, once you get, for example, people involved creating allotments, then you're talking about a group result, and we've got the value tracking for the people participating. And therefore, when the money is attracted, how is that distributed? And then what's the collective decisioning about what to do next? Okay. And that is iterative social validation. Okay. And it's simultaneously shared, okay, so that there is scaling across. So as I mentioned, so if it starts to happen, for example, if you go, oh, look, it's starting to happen, something interesting is happening in Jersey, then, my friends may be in Sheffield, they go, oh, it works over there. Okay, let's try that. But it's not just a disembodied sequence. Do A, do B, do C. Okay, that's it. It's easy. It's more like, well, why don't we invite them up here and for them to share or maybe even take part in what we're doing. And so if it's starting to be successful in one area, you basically want to kind of seed it, or rhizomes. I think that's the common one, or at least it used to be for the postmodernists. Basically, you seed it. You go somewhere. For example, it could be Charlie, because if it starts to work, Charlie goes somewhere, He's invited places, and then he can share what he did, but also invest in it. So there's an organic aspect to this. It's very important that this is organic. As you can see, it's just people. Okay, it's not like selling. This is definitely not me selling anything. Okay, so and it's not about just advice, and it's not just about disembodied information. It's about this is working because of the people and the trust, and we're learning this, and so we're not passing on this information, but we're investing as well. We have interest in making sure that it works for other people too, okay, in their contexts. So it's got to be conducive to that environment with their context, whether it happens to be like Sheffield or another part of the world, with completely different environments, with different growing patterns, and so on and so forth. So it's simultaneously sharing and scaling across. So we're getting results, little results, growing, growing, and the whole thing starts to grow, more like a prairie, okay? So it's not a matter of going, a massive tree. Okay, let's copy that. No, it's not like that. So we're all going to be growing as it grows. And because of that, we're talking about, and Meshworks, we're talking about rapid growth. Because we're scaling across, it's potentially very, very fast. Very fast. Potentially, we're talking about lots of people getting involved because of the social evidence, because people are getting carrots within a couple of years. They're like regularly paying for ensuring that next year they're going to get some carrots. Okay? So it's not like they've paid for the carrots. They're making sure that they're investing in such a way, very effortlessly, where there are carrots turning up next year. I don't know why we stuck with carrots. I think that was Charlie. I don't know if his farm's involved creating carrots. Right, so the limitations, are to do with speed and time. And regarding organics and the soil, decade. However, there are intermediary steps where we can produce organic food, maybe biodynamic, permaculture to improve the quality, but also to improve the soil quality. It might be a bit slower than 10 years, okay? But it allows certain social experiments to occur, like, for example, the allotments and so on. But what is faster, definitely, is the social. The social is a lot faster. If people can go, that sounds like a good idea, here's a tenner, there. And if people get that viral, and then we start seeing a result, it works for them, maybe it can work for me with what I'm doing. And so the social soil it might take less than 10 years to get reasonably strong social trust relationships. In fact, by the time it gets to 10 years, it would be really nice if we had social validation and Meshworks up to a certain scale. Certainly a farm size, and potentially with a farmer with local restaurants and the whole meshwork of that. I don't know, I would have thought 10 years, 12 years, it fits with definitely a town size. May not be island size, but which would be equivalent to about a city. Okay, so, but the point is that however long, it's quite interesting because the soil and stuff, that is a geological scale time period in relation to virals, which can happen overnight. And so we're playing around with those scales, okay? And you've got to think of that, okay? Now, the organic movement took decades to get to the point where supermarkets were promoting organic food. And vegans, that took forever until eventually the COVID, or was it just before COVID? And the veganism started to take off. Oh, God, this thing. And I think that the regenerative is, another kind of like term. It's like mindfulness, that came, that went, and now it's well-being, that'll come, that'll go. Unless it sticks, unless we've got some kind of, we have an economic to support it so that it's actually proper. Okay, we don't have to go into the next thing. Okay. The actual soil is healing. Our social trust is improving. Okay. And so we are slowing down, and we are actually paying attention to each other, and we are respecting each other, and our educational system is working, and the kids are a little bit more respectful. So it took decades for these things, and I think that if it's going to work, I think that the regenerative movement basically needs to start seeing results. Even though we're talking about regeneration of soil, the actual social side of it within months, this year definitely, but definitely within a year, okay, 2 years, we need to see significant environmental improvement. To prove that the regeneration cycle is healthy. It's a healthy direction. So it's kind of related to the time thing. Like a Twitter storm can happen overnight, and we need to work at that level at the same time. That's it. Okay, so it's self-organizing. I've talked way more. That was an extra 10 minutes of basically waffle. I can do the maths. I've created the tool. I'm not good at hypothesizing use cases. I can't do it. But what I can do is engage people that are in the real world and facing the limits that they're facing. And then we mathematize based on the specific facts and the numbers that they're facing. I.e., how much money, how much land, and how much money is required, what specific tools or techniques are going to be used, and what's the plan after that, and what is the money going to be used for. And all of that is not hypothetical. It's, well, this is what we'll do if we get this money. Okay? And so that needs to be planned out, not planned like a blueprint plan, like this is the building, it's going to be exactly this. It has to have enough flexibility that it can go in this direction, it can go in this direction, and this is where the money is probably going to go as far as we understand where it's going to go. However, we're going to be considering what we do as we go along, because new people will turn up and they'll come up with better ideas and go, oh, that's shorter term and we'll get a better result. Yeah, let's do that. And so it's always good. The person who's listening is always the more valuable person than the person who's talking. You, listening now. So this is really just backing up what I've said to Charlie. Hopefully we're going to have a conversation. We're going to nail something down. If we do nail something down, we will produce a better quality video, maybe with Charlie as well. We have a conversation, 10 minutes, maybe a bit longer. It doesn't matter, all right? At this stage, it doesn't matter how long it is, because it just becomes part of the documentation from the past. Okay. But the one after that, that's going to have to be shorter, because if we go ahead with the crowdfunding, then you know how it is. People need to go, oh, this is interesting. Oh, this is very exciting. It's short enough, condensed enough. No, okay, I'll put in 10 quid. Or it's got a little bit more substance to it. So okay, here's 100 quid. Ooh, okay, no, I want to invest in this. Here's £1,000. We're talking about land. Now, Charlie, I don't think is going to be in a position willing to kind of like share his land. I suspect it's his family's, and he's inherited it, and he wants his children to inherit it. However, if we're realistically thinking about the future, okay, and we're talking about global scale, then we all own the land. So Charlie's children will own the land, and everybody's children own the land, and we all own the land. It's just who's living on it, and where are we living on it, and what are we doing with it. And hopefully we've worked all that out by the time we get to that global scale. And we need to start demonstrating that as soon as possible. But Charlie, I don't think at the beginning of this is going to say, okay, yeah, I'm going to give my land away. He's not going to do that. However, at some point, and it'll happen probably if you start getting people involved to give their time up free, some kind of shared mechanism, okay? And that has to interface with the current traditional economic with ownership and contracts and so on and so forth. So that would have to be drawn up at some point. And I would say that is step 2, 3. Definitely step 3. Talking about 18 months. If it's going incredibly well, or yeah, 3 years maybe. So, but it's nice to at least start thinking that, okay, that it means that when you're saying to people, invest in this, they really are investing in freeing the land economically. It's not just about, let's, get better quality soil so that it can grow more crops. It's let's get better trust relationships amongst each other so we work together on the soil in a way which is not just working, you get your money, you go home. Okay, no, you're investing your time to grow the vegetables, and you know that you can do that next year, and you know that you can do, and so on. Why? Because that's what you're investing your time in. It's like your farm. Okay, it's your land. And so there's an aspect of that that makes sense. So we're regenerating the trust relationships amongst each other so that, okay, so this is a conversation that we're going to have as we go along. And the reason why this is recorded here is because if we do go forwards and, let's say in 10 years' time, some people can look back and go, okay, well, this is the original idea, wasn't it? Yes, I'm saying from here at this point, in 10 years' time, if you don't own the land, something's gone wrong somewhere along the line. It's not that you own the land. Oh, I've got my little parcel. No, we collectively own the land. Oh, I've got no, you don't have your 2 square foot of land. Okay. You'll have, I think it will be something to do with time. I think it will be something to do with you may work here. You may contribute your time and help grow vegetables. You may live somewhere nearby. And you may be given vegetables. And you may be given food. And you've got that right. Okay, you've got some kind of numerics to make sure, and accountability, so that, basically you get to live. Okay, in a fairly effortless way. And it is pleasant, okay? And if you're like 60 or 70, and I think I talked to Charlie about this, 70, I'm 53, I do not want to be in a city, anywhere close to a city, or in a place where I have to sit there and pay money for the bus, and pay money for this, and pay money for that. It's just like, I can't be bothered. I cannot be, if I'm living in that, I won't be living. I will not be living in that environment. I just won't be. Sorry. Okay, so, and the better way to do it is basically you just wander about, and somebody, it's very kind, it's driving a bus. Oh, somebody's very kind in a car. Oh, very kind. And, well, actually, I'll be cycling most places. But the point is, God, waffled. The point is that I'm trying to make sure that people understand that it's not just regeneration of the land, it's regeneration of us and our trust relationships. And I'm making this very clear, and I try to make it as clear as possible with Charlie. And it sounds a bit bonkers because I have never talked to people about this, like this. Because I've just concentrated on the maths, and I've concentrated on certain efficiencies. And I do not talk about values. I don't manipulate people. I don't try to relate and trigger things that people have. You can tell. I mean, look, 33 minutes. If you're watching this, you are incredible. Not if you're watching this. The fact that you're watching this means you have value. You can put up with me waffling on, and there's something going on that you have that I don't know. And you're forgiving me for my waffling and whatever I'm talking about. And there's an aspect within you that you possess and and it's valuable. Okay, and you can tell I'm not manipulating. Okay, because I was doing a very bad job of that. And you might be able to do it in a much more concise manner, in which case, please record it and share it forwards. And maybe we can stick that, later on. And so that means that anybody that's coming back, so the only person that even vaguely, and I've already asked Charlie to switch it off, but if Charlie shares this forwards and other people are watching this, like, who is this guy? And it's like, well, it's just a guy, okay? I have come up with an alternative economic, which is potentially very valuable, but it's only going to work if people use it. And it's only going to work if people are genuine. I mean, it's as simple as that. And you can tell I'm 100% authentic and genuine. And there's no sales in this. And almost like the worst sales it is, the more authentic it probably is. Okay, so there's no probability to this. Okay, so, and I need to get better at this. As you can tell, I'm not very good at this. The value is in you. The value is in the time that you spent looking at this. Think about the people in the future, anybody looking back at this. The value that they have in looking back at this to check, to validate where it comes from. Go, oh yeah, okay. They started off well. And hopefully every single step by everybody who participates is done well. Okay? Because if it doesn't, then you have the power with your money, okay, vector money especially, to redirect it. So at some stage in the future, okay, the money doesn't have to move, and it's just a standing wave. It means we're pointing the money towards future objectives. For example, carrots for next year. Oh, and carrots are grown. Great. I'll point the same money into the future. And because we're not moving the money, we're doing these exchange points, it means at some point, some of these vector monies just sit there as a standing wave. And they just point towards objectives that repeat. And it's just enough confidence for people to go, yes, I can go to the farm, I can put all this effort in. Oh, look, and carrots are taken, received, eaten, chopped up. People are satisfied, they like the carrots, and I can do it again next year, you know. Or I can go on to other things. Okay, so I did a little bit of carrot growing. I'm going to do something else next year. Okay, so the point is, it's unstable. This is inherently unstable. Okay, all the different points. Literally, we don't know where the money's going. That's the problem with current money, the scalar money. We don't actually know where it's going. Whereas if we have vector money, and we have enough trust relationships, and we have meshworks, or supply chains, but meshworks, means that the community is basically becomes self-sufficient in effect, and it's like a moving soliton. Okay, it's like a vector money that's moving through time, but there's no actual transaction, there's no actual exchange. And that community continues to exist because obviously people are doing things for each other and collaborating and valuing each other. Okay, so that there's making sure that if somebody's not doing enough, it's like, well, they get less, that's fine. But the point is the vector money is owned by all the participants, which means that if you're taking part in a community and for whatever reason, that community starts going in the direction that you don't think is actually like sensible, then you can redirect your money, your vector, and pull out of that sustainable little soliton, or the standing wave, and thus disempower it. And therefore, our action of voting becomes, like currently with money, direct action. You know, the way that they did it with oranges with South Africa, that kind of thing. Oh, okay, apartheid, well, we'll stop buying oranges from South Africa. South Africa suffers financially, therefore it hopefully increases potentially the social change in South Africa, and so apartheid was overcome. Maybe influenced potentially by direct selling, what's it called, buying. Direct consumer power, I can't remember what it's called. But that's effectively what's happening with vector money. And so enough people can kind of like veer off if, for whatever reason, the collective movement isn't going in the appropriate direction. If it's no longer being organic, if it's no longer regenerating the soil, if it's no longer if people are starting to buy ridiculous cars and only a couple of people are owning them and stuff like that, it's like, oh. And so basically we have the power. Okay, in 10 years' time, we know that we're going in the right direction because we're more comfortable. We're satisfied with each other. We've got trust relationships that are ongoing, and it's making more money, okay, which makes it grow. Okay, and that's the thing. I'm not into this no growth thing. No, we definitely need to grow. We definitely need, not machine growth. Okay, I can't believe the mistake people are making. People are talking about zero growth and no growth. That's machines. That's to do with building and construction. That definitely has to be reduced. However, our organic trust, that needs to increase. Okay, so once we start actually having this economic that supports us, and individuals can still have incredible amounts of power because the money isn't in any organization. It's consistently with all the participants. So when the money comes, it's distributed to all the participants, and each one is pointing towards future objectives. And so if that involves making sure that we've got enough land for next year, enough coffee beans to have coffee and everything else that we want, okay, fine, okay, and we move along nicely. But if for whatever reason we're unhappy about how some of these things are being made, or certain people's behavior, we can monitor internally, as it were. But if the whole system starts kind of like not doing what you want it to be doing, you can redirect and basically pull out of that. Okay, with your money. You're like a mini investor. And if you get enough people doing that, the whole thing can move. And so the actual mainstream can move, okay, in a non-representational way. It's with direct action. So, look, I've only glancing at these other things. I'm just trying to indicate. No, I think I have indicated that the origination of movement, of the regenerative movement, is not just about the land. Okay, it is about us socially. And if we get the initial conditions right, it means that the development and the growth as people join in and people contribute is going in the right direction for the next people, basically for the next generation. So that when Charlie's kids, our kids, grow up and become adults, and we're talking about, 20 years' time, they actually inherit a world that's actually okay, if not good. Okay, and I mean, it sounds ridiculous now, but hopefully some people can manage to pull it off. While Charlie is doing something to do with land, other people are doing stuff to do with direct empowerment and disempowerment of the military. Can you imagine that? So that we basically and disempower, I don't know, the potential for political entities to like wage war. Now that sounds like completely ridiculous. But if we manage to start getting a regenerative thing and it scales across, and in 10 years' time we have village scale. It doesn't sound like much, but if we've got to that point, I mean, it's like logarithmic smooth curve. It's like, wow, exponential, sorry, wow. And so if we get like lots of villages, hundreds, thousands of villages, and one town, and then in 2 years' time, it's like 3 years' time, it's like a city. All right, we've got hundreds of towns and now cities. Are using an alternative mechanism for generating food and sharing it and so on and so forth. Then at that point, then it's like, well, wait a minute. What are the efforts being made about disempowering the military industry? Oh, they've managed to do this little bit. Well, now that we are actually kind of like eating well, okay, let's contribute to that, folks. And so it suddenly becomes much more realistic once we've got iterative social validation. So our children grow up in a world, say in 20 years' time, that it's actually like regeneration, the generative change, not just land, 10 years. We're talking about the next generation, 20 years. The kids coming out of schools. So part of my fulcrum book is that the kids, if we start to introduce this in schools, and I'm saying by in about 13 years' time, actually 10 years' time, if they've been doing it for the last 4 or 5 years, adolescents coming out as becoming adults, 16, 17, 18, have actually operated in self-organizing systems within schools. Imagine the first generation of kids that are not operating like basically every other adult before that in terms of our educational systems. They're actually self-organizing. They're working together in collaborative groups. They don't join companies. They don't sell their time. They contribute their time to do different things. And some of it's like, cleaning the toilets. Yep, the snowflakes cleaning toilets. And, old people cleaning toilets. And various people doing the things that need to be done. But also doing, arty things and music things and so on and so forth. But done all together in different ways. Or doing sports. But the way that the money is distributing is different. And they're not locked into a career. They're moving and doing things for shorter periods of time because we've got a trust metric. Because the trust metric basically improves the ability to have social flexibility so we can move around. And they've learnt all this at school. They've been able to go from class to class and different things and self-directed learning, all these beautiful things that we've proven to be useful to students. We just haven't pulled off in classes because adults keep on trying to impose it. Whereas it can only work if the students themselves are self-organized enough and capable enough to be able to do self-organized, self-determined learning, project learning, changing and choosing which class they're going to literally that day. They get options of which classes to go to. You're like, what? And so it's like fresh, it's new, it's just lovely, potentially, okay? If we can trust them. And that's what self-organized, that's what they start doing. They prove that you can trust them, so you start trusting them more. Until that's what I did in my classes, and I got kids doing 25 weeks working 5. 25 weeks working 5, okay? With 21 kids moving up a set and 3 moving up 2 sets, okay? And that's just like, well, why? Because I trusted them, they trusted me, we got into a very high trust relationship, and so we went into accelerated learning. And it was tough, but it was amazing, and they got amazing results. And then we did some group work activities, which were even better, okay? Because they just proven to themselves that they can do incredible stuff. So can we do the same for adults? Yes. Okay. And throughout history, we've had massive social changes, but most of it's been revolutionary because it's destructive. And then people have to work out what the constructive bit is. Whereas, okay, I've developed a few tools, but the most important one, I think that because it's maths and stuff. I think that's the most important one, the maths. But the economic is a very important one because that's the one that's running the entire engine of the world. And we've got an alternative, scale, or eco squared. If that's proven to work through social validation, great. But it's the people doing it that are important, not the maths, not the economics. Okay, so the rates of change of things happening are beyond our ability to understand. So it's not for us to judge, especially older people, to judge what is possible or not possible. What we need to do is just go, well, let's just give this a go. Oh, my God, it works. And it has to be quite challenging because otherwise it's just dull. So if we generate 100K or a million, whatever it is, through scale, it'll be like, oh, wow, it worked. We can trust people to do this. There's no advertising. There's no marketing. Wow. And it even began with this video, with this old guy going blah, blah, blah. What? Well, it didn't begin with this, but there it is, documented. Okay, so it's not a company. It's just people going, this sounds like a good idea. I'll contribute. And it's that, what am I contributing? Is it a bit of money? Yeah. Is it a bit of recommendation to the right people? Yeah. Is it about sharing a bit more time? Yeah. Is it making a decision together? Yeah. That's basically it. If you're doing things together with a bunch of other people, that involves time, and there's money flow. That's it, really. So the actual, what is possible with large numbers of us, and that involves, organizational skills. And if we get a bunch of adolescents that are joining the workforce and working in this way, that adults just go, wow, that's amazing. That's a major step forwards. Okay, so that can open up the potential for disarmament and all that kind of stuff, which people have tried from the past, for millennia. Hundreds of years trying to stop wars. So we can't discount that. We definitely want to have that as a possibility. It's not whether we think it's possible or not. Oh, it's possible, it's not possible. It's like, okay, somebody's going to be able to enable that. We're going to help them by doing what we can now, okay? But within the time scale, that by the time the kids are 1 or 2 now are 21, all right, adults, fully grown, are living in a world that is healthy, okay? Social health. Social health. And that's what I'm demonstrating here, okay? I trust you. Okay, the fact you're listening to this means you definitely have the value, okay? And it's definitely you. And everybody that watches this, okay, they are your partners, okay? They are your brothers and sisters because you're listening. And there's aspects of you, you know, the questioning, the skeptical, fine. But there's aspects of you that are good, okay? And that's how I finished the conversation with Andrew, I remember yesterday. I said to him, I get the impression that you're a good person, okay? I think you're a good person. No, I said, you are a good person. And he was like, oh, I think I am. So, no, are you a good person? I think I am, he said. So, no, are you a good person? And I went, yeah, I am a good person. I went, yeah, I know. Okay, and so you, to be watching this at 50 minutes, are a good person. Okay, so, and you know it. You don't need me to tell you, all right? But everybody else that watches, okay, is a good person. And what can a bunch of good people do? At the level of confidence you're a good person, and the level of confidence that everybody else that watches this believes in themselves, going, oh, I'm a good person. Act together. So if it's 3 people watching this at this point, oh, what are we going to do together? Right, it's 10 people. Do you see? It's like that. But it's going to become more powerful once it's like 100,000 of us, obviously. Okay, but it won't be on this video. Okay, but 100,000 people that watch the crowdfunding video, of those, say, let's say, okay, 10,000 people watch the crowdfunding video, and let's say they put in 10 quid, okay, and so we generate 100,000. Amazing. Of those 10,000, 1,000 watched the video before of me and Charlie, and maybe 100, 10 go back to this video. Go, oh, who was this guy? And of those 10, 2 get to this point. And they're like, I want it to 52 minutes. Extra special. Okay, so it's self-selecting. So you find the other person that watched this to 52, and basically you get together and you go, why did you watch up to 52? Yeah, and there's something in you. Okay, and then basically go, well, what do we do about this? The fact that 2 of us watched this. Do you see? And the 10 that watched, what's special about those 10? What about the, you know, and so on and so forth. So it's about extracting as much value out of the time that we have, because we've only got a limited amount, and the older we get, you know, and we know, don't we? I met this other guy who actually showed me this place, Andrew, 67. I'm going to have an interesting conversation with him. We already had a small one in the car journey, and he's been involved in property, and he's also involved in education, and they're talking about changing things kind of, I don't know, but politically here in Jersey. He's an experienced guy. He's interesting. He's quite amusing. And if we can pull the right people together and get some social validation, and that's why people continue. It's the social validation. Okay. So good people acting together at scale, okay, with scale, scaling across is it. Okay, so and the number games that we play, and I think a minimal trust metric as we've got at scale, vector money, will help us. So I know I'm looking there. It's a pity the camera isn't right there. Right there. Is that where I'm looking? Okay, so yeah, the next one's definitely going to be a lot more precise, and that's good. And shorter, maybe 15 minutes, half an hour. And then the one after that will be the actual crowdfunding video, which will be 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes maybe up to 10, if we're talking about like 100 quid sharing forwards. So that has to be decided. I can't think of anything else. And you come up with something, then you need to act on it. Judging me, complete waste of time. I'm in the past. Your own evaluation of your own thinking on what inspires you to go forwards. That's everything. Be well. I'm David Pinto, co-founder of Scale. It is something like April the 26th or something, and 2023. This is my documentation. Hello. Why is this computer dead? Why is it dead? Be well.